The cold night and the crying twins. The wind howled through the trees of the snow-covered forest, carrying a bitter cold that could freeze bones in minutes. The moon was barely visible behind thick clouds, casting a faint silver light over the white ground. Every branch trembled under the weight of snow, and every step in the forest left a deep mark that quickly disappeared in the storm. A human woodcutter named Thomas worked late that night. Chopping logs near his small cabin, he was tall and strong, with hands hardened by years of work and a heart that had grown used to solitude. The forest was his friend, or at least the only company he trusted, but tonight, something strange cut through the silence, a faint, high-pitched cry that sounded like no animal he had ever heard. Thomas paused, gripping his axe tightly. Listening, the cry came again, soft and desperate, almost pleading. It made his chest tighten and a shiver run down his spine. He looked around, seeing only shadows and snow, yet the sound was close, too close to ignore. Carefully, he stepped through the snow, following the sound. Each step was heavy and dangerous, the ice underfoot threatening to betray him. The cries grew louder, clearer, until he finally saw them. Huddled together under a fallen tree were two small alien twins, their bodies tiny and thin, shaking violently in the cold. Their skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight, and their eyes, large and round, reflected fear, confusion, and desperation. Thomas froze, unsure what to do. The creatures looked fragile, almost helpless, yet he felt a strange tension in the air. Like something about them was not ordinary. They stared at him with hope, their tiny hands reaching out. Pleading for warmth, Thomas's heart ached, but a voice in his head warned him to be careful. The forest was dangerous, and he did not know these beings or what they might do. After a long moment, Thomas took a deep breath and stepped closer. "Hey, you need warmth, don't you?" he said softly, his voice low so as not to scare them. The twins made a sound almost like a tiny gasp, and one of them shuffled closer, pressing against the snow with frozen hands. Their bodies trembled so much that Thomas could feel it from where he stood. He knew he could not leave them there. The snow was deep, the night was cold, and no one would survive out here without shelter. He looked around, calculating the risk, then nodded to himself. "Okay, come with me," he said, extending his arms. His words seemed to reach the twins, and slowly, cautiously, they crawled toward him, trusting him enough to leave their hiding spot. Thomas scooped them up, feeling the strange warmth of their bodies. Soft and trembling, he hurried to his cabin, each step a careful balance on icy rocks and frozen roots. The wind tore at his coat and hair, but he ignored it, focused only on reaching safety. Once inside, he placed them near the fire, wrapping them in thick blankets. The twins' small bodies began to shiver less as the heat seeped into their frozen limbs. They looked up at him with gratitude and something like curiosity. Thomas sat back, exhausted yet alert. He did not know who they were, where they came from, or what dangers might follow them here. The forest was silent again, but the feeling of being watched lingered. He glanced at the shadows outside his window, wondering if someone or something had been following the twins. The night was far from over, and Thomas knew that this encounter was only the beginning of something much larger, something that would challenge his courage, test his heart, and reveal secrets he could never imagine. The twins shivered quietly under the blankets, their eyes wide, waiting as the fire crackled, filling the cabin with warmth, and a promise of mystery lingered in the air. The cabin and the first signs of danger. The cabin was small but warm, filled with the soft crackle of the fire. Thomas sat on a wooden chair, watching the two alien twins curl up on a thick blanket. Their bodies were still trembling, and their large eyes darted nervously around the room. They looked fragile, almost like tiny birds, and Thomas felt a mix of pity and curiosity. He moved closer, holding a small bowl of warm soup. "Eat this. It will help you feel stronger," he said gently. The twins tilted their heads, looking at the steaming liquid. One of them reached a trembling hand and touched the bowl, then slowly began to sip. The warmth seemed to calm them slightly, their shivers slowing. Thomas noticed their skin glimmering faintly in the firelight, colors shifting like liquid. He had never seen anything like it, and a thought ran through his mind. These were no ordinary creatures. They tried to speak, but only small. Strange noises came out like whispers of wind through ice. Thomas shook his head, smiling softly. "It's okay. I don't understand you, but I'll help," he said, using his hands to gesture, pointing at the food, then at himself. And finally at the fire outside, the wind continued to howl, bending the tall pine trees and tossing snow against the cabin walls. Thomas's eyes flicked to the windows, feeling a strange unease. Something about the night felt wrong. He could not shake the feeling that they were not alone, that the twins were being watched, perhaps even hunted. The twins, sensing his tension, huddled closer together, their small hands clasping each other's. One of them, the bolder twin, reached out a tiny hand toward Thomas. Brushing it against his sleeve, it was a gesture of trust, and Thomas's chest tightened with an unexpected warmth. He nodded, understanding without words. "I will keep you safe," he said softly, though the words felt heavy in the cold cabin air. Suddenly, there was a faint scrape at the door. Barely audible over the wind, Thomas froze, his heart pounding. He grabbed a nearby wooden stick. Ready to defend the cabin, the twins gasped, their small bodies tensing, staring at the sound. The scrape came again, a deliberate sound, like someone testing the locks. Thomas's mind raced. He had lived in the forest for many years and he had faced animals, storms and accidents, but this was different. Something intelligent was out there, something patient, waiting, watching. He leaned closer to the twins, whispering, "Stay here. Don't move." While moving quietly toward the door, peering through the frosted window, nothing was visible. Just swirling snow and dark shapes of trees. But the feeling of eyes on him, on the twins, did not fade. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay calm. Then he returned to the fire, picking up a piece of wood and placing it ready at his side. The twins pressed close, one bold twin whispering noises that seemed almost like a question, asking if the danger would come again. Thomas smiled faintly. "I don't know, but we will be ready," he said. The night stretched on, the fire casting dancing shadows across the walls. Every crack of wood or howl of wind made the twins jump, and Thomas's nerves tighten. Yet in that small cabin a bond was forming, one of trust, hope, and determination. Even as the storm raged outside, the twins began to relax, their bodies leaning against Thomas, their strange eyes reflecting the firelight. But the sense of being watched remained, like a shadow hovering beyond the trees. The twins were safe for now, but the forest held secrets, and Thomas knew that the first night of safety was only the beginning. Secrets in the snow. The night was deep and the storm outside showed no signs of stopping. Thomas kept his eyes on the twins who huddled together near the fire, their small bodies no longer shivering as violently. But something strange caught his attention. One of the twins raised a tiny hand, and from it a faint glow appeared, soft like moonlight. It danced across the fire-lit walls and Thomas gasped, stepping back. The twins looked at each other, their eyes wide, almost scared. Then the bolder twin pointed at the window, and the glow shifted to illuminate the dark forest outside. Thomas stared, realizing for the first time that these creatures were not ordinary. They were something else, something unknown, something powerful. Yet fragile. He kneeled down, keeping his voice low. You can do this," he whispered. The twins nodded slowly, their small voices making soft chimes as they tried to speak. Thomas understood only a little, but the meaning was clear. They were running from danger, from someone or something that could harm them. His mind raced. Who would want to hurt creatures like these? And why? Outside, a movement caught his eye, faint shadows moving among the trees. Thomas's heart tightened. He realized immediately how the twins were being hunted. Their pursuers were clever, silent, and patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. He glanced at the twins, who looked up at him with a mixture of fear and hope. Their trust was complete, and Thomas knew he could not fail them. He rose, pacing carefully, thinking of a plan. He could not fight them all. Not in the open forest, not at night. The cabin was safe for now, but it would not hold for long. He needed to understand the twins' abilities better. Perhaps they could help themselves, perhaps together they could escape whatever hunted them. The bolder twin raised both hands and tiny sparks of light appeared. Spinning slowly around their small body, Thomas watched in awe. "Amazing, you're amazing," he said. Though he knew the words would not matter much, he could feel the twins' fear and determination in the same moment. Their small bodies trembled not from cold, but from the weight of their secret. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from outside. Like a tree breaking under pressure, the twins froze, their glow flickering. Thomas grabbed a heavy log, stepping toward the window cautiously. He saw giant footprints in the snow, unlike any animal he had seen, each step careful and deliberate. Following the path of the twins, he realized then, these were hunters. Not wild creatures, and they were close. Thomas whispered to the twins, "Stay hidden. Whatever happens, do not come out." He placed his hand over theirs, feeling the faint warmth and the shimmer of their glowing skin. The twins leaned closer, their tiny bodies trusting him completely. He moved around the cabin, checking doors and windows. Preparing for the inevitable, time passed slowly, the wind howling like voices in the night. Thomas and the twins sat in tense silence, waiting, watching, listening. The fire crackled, casting shadows across the walls, and the twins' glow gave the room an ethereal feeling. They were no longer just frightened aliens. They were beings of mystery and power, and Thomas was now their protector. Their safety rested in his hands, and the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. Outside, the snowstorm hid much, but Thomas could feel the watchers lurking beyond the trees. His mind was sharp, his instincts alive. The night was far from over, and he knew the dawn might not bring relief. Only more questions, only more danger. Only the chance that the twins' secret might save them or lead them into greater peril. The first attack, the night was quiet for a moment, but Thomas could feel the tension in the cabin. His eyes never left the shadows outside, where the snow swirled and the forest seemed alive. Then a low, heavy sound broke the stillness, like branches cracking under massive weight. Thomas's heart raced. He grabbed a long log and held it ready, feeling the rough wood against his hands. Through the window he saw them, the hunters, tall and dark, their shapes looming in the snow. Each step left deep prints, deliberate and precise. They were not just animals, nor simple beings. They moved with intelligence and purpose, hunting the twins, and now they had found the cabin. Thomas turned to the twins, who huddled close together. Their small bodies glowing faintly in fear, he whispered, "Stay behind me. Don't move." The bolder twin looked up, their glowing eyes shining, seeming to ask, "Can we help?" Thomas nodded subtly, understanding. Their glow flickered stronger, and he realized maybe their small power could change the fight. The hunters reached the cabin, pounding on the wooden walls, demanding the twins. Their voices were deep, harsh, and alien, yet somehow commanding. "Come out, or face us," they growled. The cabin shook with each blow, but Thomas stayed calm, analyzing every move. Every hunter had a pattern, a weakness, and he intended to use it. He grabbed a heavy log and swung it at the first door, then ran to the side window, placing small traps he had prepared earlier, swinging ropes, knocking snow from high branches, making obstacles for the hunters. Each move was deliberate, his muscles tight with concentration. The hunters hesitated, momentarily confused by the clever tricks. The twins' glow grew stronger, sending sparks floating in the cabin air. Tiny streaks of light shot from their hands, brushing the hunters who tried to approach the windows, startling them. Thomas watched, amazed, realizing the twins were fighting too, even in their small, delicate forms. Their courage was bigger than anyone could imagine. One hunter broke through a weak part of the door, stepping into the cabin with a roar. Thomas swung the log, hitting the floor, then grabbed a piece of firewood and swung it at the intruder. The hunter stumbled back, surprised by the human strength and strategy. The twins added small bursts of light, blinding the hunter just long enough for Thomas to push them out of the room. The hunters regrouped outside, circling the cabin, trying to find another way in. Thomas knew this was only the first attack. There would be more, stronger, smarter. But he had learned something crucial. The twins' power could fight back, and together they could survive. Thomas knelt near the twins, whispering, "We did it." For now, the twins leaned closer, their bodies trembling not with fear, but with adrenaline. Their trust in him was complete, and his in them had grown. He could see the bond forming, stronger than anything he had known before. Outside, the snowstorm raged, hiding the hunters' next approach. Thomas knew the night was far from over, yet inside the cabin for the first time, he felt a flicker of hope. The twins were no longer just fragile beings to protect. They were allies, small but powerful, and together, they could face what was coming. The fire crackled, casting shadows across the walls, mixing with the twins' glowing light. The storm outside was relentless, but inside, the cabin felt alive with courage, determination, and the quiet promise that the next fight would be even more daring. Journey through the snow. The first light of dawn struggled to pierce the thick clouds. The forest was quiet, but the snowstorm had left the ground slippery and dangerous. Thomas knew they could not stay in the cabin. The hunters would return, stronger and more prepared. He packed a small bag with food, blankets, and supplies, and carefully lifted the two alien twins, tucking them under his coat. The twins clung to him tightly, their glowing bodies pressing against his chest. Their eyes flickered nervously toward the forest. Sensing danger even when nothing moved, Thomas whispered, "Stay close. Don't look back." And they nodded, understanding the words without hearing them fully. Each step was a struggle, the snow deep and heavy. Thomas sank knee-deep at times, the cold biting through his coat, yet he pushed forward, knowing that the twins' survival depended on his strength and courage. The twins' tiny hands occasionally reached out, brushing against branches, sending small glimmers of light across the snow. Their glow was faint but steady, like little stars guiding his path. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the forest. A branch breaking under weight, Thomas froze, motioning for the twins to stay still. Shadows moved among the trees, larger than any animal, and his stomach tightened. The hunters were following, patient and relentless, waiting for a mistake. He led the twins carefully along a narrow path, using his knowledge of the forest to avoid open areas. Every tree, every slope became a potential hiding place. He whispered encouragement to the twins. "We're almost through. Just a little further." Their eyes shone with trust, and for a moment, Thomas felt the warmth of companionship in the cold wilderness. A frozen river blocked their path. Its surface slick and treacherous, Thomas inspected it carefully. Then he spotted a series of rocks barely peeking above the ice. He told the twins to jump carefully from one to the next, their tiny hands reaching for his as he guided them across. The bolder twin glowed slightly brighter with each successful step, giving them both courage. As they reached the other side, a wind gust hit. Almost knocking Thomas off balance, he stumbled, pulling the twins close. The timid twin let out a small, frightened sound, and Thomas whispered, "It's okay. We're safe." Though the danger was far from over, he scanned the forest, the deep snow hiding any threats. Yet he could sense the hunters closing in, following their every move. Hours passed as they trudged through the forest, the storm thinning but the cold relentless. Thomas allowed the twins short rests near fallen logs, their glowing forms small against the vast snow. He offered them food and warm water, watching as they slowly regained strength. Their trust in him had grown, and their bond was now unbreakable. Finally, in the distance, Thomas spotted faint lights, a human settlement. Hidden among tall trees, shielded from the storm and the hunters, hope surged through him. The twins pressed closer, sensing safety, but Thomas remained cautious, knowing the journey was not yet over. The hunters might still be near, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Thomas whispered softly to the twins, "Almost there. We will be safe soon." Their tiny hands clutched his coat, and he felt their warmth, their trust, and the responsibility heavier than ever. The forest was still full of unknown dangers, but together, they were stronger than any threat, and their journey toward safety continued, filled with tension, courage, and the faint promise of hope. Betrayal at the settlement. The human settlement rose like a faint hope among the tall pine trees, small huts with smoke curling from chimneys. Thomas's heart lifted, yet a shadow of doubt lingered. He led the twins cautiously toward the gates, keeping them close under his coat. Their tiny, glowing bodies pressed against him, giving him both warmth and determination. As they neared the first hut, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and well-dressed, carrying a lantern. "You must be Thomas," the stranger said with a calm voice. "I can help you," and "Them?" pointing to the twins. His tone was smooth, almost too smooth, and Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. The twins twitched nervously, their glow dimming slightly. Sensing something wrong, Thomas held up a hand, keeping them behind him. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice steady but wary. The stranger smiled. "A friend. I know a safe place. Come, it is nearby. Better than this settlement." His hand beckoned, warm and inviting, yet Thomas's instincts screamed caution. The wind shifted, carrying faint, strange sounds from the forest, and Thomas realized the hunters were not far behind. He studied the stranger, noticing the subtle movements, the way his eyes lingered on the twins, calculating, not a friend but someone with an agenda, possibly working for the hunters. Thomas whispered to the twins, "Stay quiet, and follow my lead." The bolder twin tilted its head, the glow in its eyes flickering, ready to help if needed. Together, they slowly approached the stranger. Watching every motion, Thomas pretended to follow, leading the twins along a narrow path, His mind racing for a plan, suddenly the stranger lunged, trying to grab one of the twins. His movements quick and precise, but Thomas reacted faster, pulling the twins close and swinging a heavy branch. The stranger stumbled, surprised by the human's strength and timing. The twins flared their glow, small sparks shooting outward, blinding the stranger just long enough for Thomas to push them behind a tree. The stranger recovered quickly, but Thomas had already acted, kicking up snow and debris, creating a barrier. He whispered, "Run to the huts." "I'll hold him." The twins hesitated, but instinct told them to trust him. They darted through the snow toward safety, leaving Thomas facing the attacker. A struggle followed, Thomas dodging and blocking, using every bit of strength and knowledge of the forest to outmaneuver the stranger. Each movement calculated, each strike meant to protect the twins. The stranger's calm expression cracked, revealing frustration. He had underestimated the human's skill, his cunning and his determination finally. Thomas forced the stranger back into the shadows. Creating distance, the twins reached him, their small bodies glowing brighter as if showing gratitude and relief. Thomas panted, exhausted but unbroken. "We're safe. For now," he said, glancing toward the settlement, knowing that true safety was still ahead. The settlement's residents began to emerge, curious at the commotion. But Thomas waved them back. "Do not come close." "It is not safe yet," he kept the twins close, their trust in him absolute, their glowing forms reflected in his eyes, and he realized that together, they were a force stronger than any one enemy. Even as the night faded into early morning, Thomas understood that danger would follow them. But now he also knew that he, the twins, and their trust in each other were stronger than any threat. The journey had tested them, their courage and their bond, but they had survived, and the real adventure was just beginning. Shelter and new beginnings. The first rays of sunlight began to pierce the thick clouds, casting a soft glow over the snow-covered settlement. Thomas led the twins carefully through the narrow paths between huts, their tiny glowing forms pressed close to his chest. They had survived the storm, the hunters and the stranger's trap, but Thomas knew they could not relax just yet. The settlement's people, human and cautious, watched from behind wooden walls and frosted windows. Curious but respectful, Thomas waved them back, motioning that the twins needed space. He guided the twins to a small, warm hut at the edge of the village, a place where no one would notice them unless invited. Inside the hut, the fire burned brightly. Warming the room instantly, the twins huddled together, their glow reflecting in the flickering light. Their small hands reached out to touch Thomas, and he felt a surge of warmth and connection. A bond had formed, and not just of survival, but of trust, friendship, and mutual respect. Thomas knelt beside them, offering the last of the warm food and water he carried. "Eat." "You need strength," he said softly. The twins responded with tiny chimes, their way of expressing gratitude. It was a sound that touched Thomas deeply, a melody of innocence and hope in the cold world around them. Outside, the forest was still, silent after the storm, but Thomas could feel the lingering tension. The hunters might still be out there, watching, waiting. He knew he could not guard the twins forever, yet he also knew that in the settlement they had safety, allies, and shelter. The bolder twin stood and held out a tiny hand, glowing faintly, signaling something. Thomas understood. It was a gesture of trust, a silent promise that they were ready to follow him, to adapt, to live. Together they explored the small hut, finding blankets, small toys, and even a place for the twins to rest comfortably. Thomas realized something important. Their journey was more than survival. It was a story of courage, compassion, and unexpected connections. He had been a solitary woodcutter, living only for his work, yet these small alien lives had changed him. They had shown him that bravery could come in any size, and kindness could build bonds stronger than fear. Hours passed, and the twins finally relaxed fully, their glowing bodies dimming as they fell asleep. Thomas watched them, a quiet smile on his face. The cabin, the forest, the danger, all of it had led to this moment, a moment of peace, a chance for a new beginning. Even as the settlement slowly awakened, Thomas kept a careful watch, his senses sharp, yet inside he felt something rare, hope. The twins would grow stronger. The hunters would not find them here, and together, they would face whatever challenges the future held. Their bond had turned fear into courage, weakness into strength, and danger into opportunity. As the sun rose fully, melting the snow in golden rays, Thomas stepped outside, the twins following closely. their tiny forms glowing faintly, catching the sunlight. The forest seemed less threatening now, a place of beauty as well as danger, and Thomas understood that adventure was never truly over. But for now, the twins were safe, the settlement offered warmth, and the world felt just a little brighter. Thomas took a deep breath, looking at the twins and knowing that this was not the end, but the start of something extraordinary. Together they had survived, and together they would face the future, united by trust, courage, and the unbreakable bond forged in the heart of a frozen forest.